What's that?
We could just do.
Yeah. I don't think anyone wants to hear that.
No one wants to hear that. They just want to hear this.
Wow.
Hey, hello everybody. Welcome back to Runeterrable Radio, episode number 15. I am your host, Blevins. Joining me as always is Saucy Mailman.
Oh wow, that was I
got it ready.
it.
I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, and then I found the button in time. So
and then you committed. You're like, this has to happen.
Got to do it.
Yeah.
What's up, buddy?
How you doing, dude?
I'm doing really well. My cousin, who lives in Singapore, who if you were here for the pre-show, we did interview him. He's been playing mobile Legends of Runeterra in Singapore, specifically because that's where it is out officially and not been pirated on US phones. It's my cousin in Singapore who's been playing it, and according to him, it's been working out really well.
Yeah, he was saying that because, and again, we got to specify everywhere else you cannot do this.
Right.
But in Singapore specifically, he said it's working very great. Mobile Legends of Runeterra.
Yeah, it's working really great. And he got it by, again, I must reiterate, completely legitimate means, and did not go to a Reddit post where it explains and shows you how you can get it on your phone in other regions. My cousin is in Singapore.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying, and he said
he
that
can
has worked really well.
Yeah, that's from your cousin who said that earlier. Yep. We have some pretty fire pre-shows, by the way, where we're just interviewing people.
Yeah, we had an interview on the spot. It was great. I didn't think
making vocal dubstep.
Yeah. That did happen too. And so that's been good. Also, I was not expecting this, but we got a big old drop on the state of the beta today. So that was cool.
Yeah, we had like a ton of unexpected Legends of Runeterra stuff happen this week. There was that Singapore mobile, the state of the beta, the Riot Invitational.
Yeah, the Riot Korea I don't know what the actual name is, but it's a Korea Invitational. Just a lot of cool stuff, and we're going to be sort of talking about all of it, but before we do
talk
that,
about at least a couple things.
We definitely want to talk about a couple things. Before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what we've had a lot of great guests on the last couple of weeks, but it's been a while since it's been just us two. So, Saucy, how your last couple of weeks with Runeterra been?
Man, it's been a ton of fun. This has been I'm gonna talk about this for a second because I'm not used to this in card games specifically. Every single day I log on to stream, there's like 5 new decks that I've not played that people are like, you should try this, you should try this, and I'm like, what is happening? So like the hot thing, it's crazy because they even talk about it in the state of the beta is like every week there's a hot new deck or like a hot couple new decks, and like this zombie Garen deck has just popped up all over the place.
I've been playing that.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to be putting out a video on a guide on how not to play it. Because
wait, did you copy my gameplay?
Have we talked on the show about Allegiance and how it works?
Yeah, we talked about how Uthgar constantly will hit the like 1 out of 5 chance to not hit Allegiance.
Yeah. So if you don't know how the zombie Garen deck works, it only has 3 Shadow Isles cards. It just has 3 copies of Rekindler. That's it. The rest is Demacia. So you play the Bannerman guy who's got Allegiance, give your dudes +1/+1, and dudettes. You play some dudettes.
True.
So I played 6 games on stream the other day. I only got the Allegiance to work 2 times. It failed 4 games.
Wow.
Yeah. And in every one of those games, I had at least 1 Rekindler in hand. One, I had 2 Rekindlers in hand, and it failed. On turn 4. Like, curved out.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm gonna show you guys how not to do that. It's so bad. Still won though. The deck's insane.
Yeah,
Still
deck
won.
is really good. I just want to point out that is it a coincidence? I'll let the listener decide. But
You, the listener.
we interview Uthgar,
Yep.
CEO and founder of Mobalytics, the app that you guys are probably using while you're playing your games right now, while we're listening to the show. Who is a die-hard Demacia fan. And after that show, I have seen so many Demacia brews.
Dude, yeah.
Like everywhere.
Garen's been everywhere.
Garen has been everywhere. Lucian coming out of the woodworks. Lucian was one that I called a while ago. I'm like, this has got to be better than the no play it's seeing right now.
Yeah, it's definitely can't be coincidence. That's all I'm saying.
For sure. And I think that kind of leads into an interesting spot because this is episode number 15. So the first, I don't know the numbers, but the first few episodes were done before the game came out. Then we had some preview patch episodes. Then there was some time off. And then we've been in open beta for 2 months.
Since what, the 27th of January or something like that?
So yeah, a little under 2 months, month and a half-ish.
Or like the 23rd-ish, somewhere around there.
The 20-somethingth of January.
24th, I think it was. I'm just making
that sounds about right. So we're at like a month and such. And literally every week has been a different meta. Because people are getting new cards, people are trying new things, people are, there's a good, I think in Runeterra right now, much like Magic the Gathering, and a little bit less so. Maybe I'm not giving it credit, but I think just anecdotally a little bit less so than in Hearthstone. There's a culture of deck brewing and trying new decks, and there's a really healthy competitive scene, at least in terms of like an underground competitive scene. I mean, we've talked about Gummy, and we've had Casanova and Prismat on the show. A lot of those guys, Swim, Mogwai, all those guys are out there really competing at high levels and doing tournaments. So there's a lot of incentive, and I've just been watching some Gummy streams where they're just they're like barely even playing. They're just like 80% is just them on a Discord call, like, oh no, this card is better in this matchup. No, but if we're playing against the Ezreal deck, then it's like theory crafting. It's like we're not even watching the game being played. It's just theory crafting. And like, I haven't had that feeling since it was me and like my playtest group for Magic the Gathering tournaments, where we're like going into a people that aren't from Canada or upstate New York probably don't know what Tim Hortons is, but basically like a Dunkin' Donuts, like playing Magic and like arguing over like which sideboard card should we be playing. It's like, oh well, if we're playing, if we're gonna be playing against the aggro mirror, we need to have this card. We can just main deck this card, stuff like that. It's like, I didn't get that with Hearthstone, even when I was playing at. I mean, this is the early days of Hearthstone, but like playing competitive, it was like, no, we pretty much have the decks figured out, and like maybe that, like, I had a couple of like meta choices, but like there just wasn't a competitive scene like that. It seems like naturally this has happened with Runeterra, and now I think. So that is one piece that has made new decks pop up. The other piece is that like we're now at the point where, I mean, for me, I didn't spend money last week. This was the first week that I didn't buy anything. Or last week was the first week. This will be the second week where I didn't buy any cards. I have basically everything right now. Like I'm actually.
I was gonna say, like, because I know you have what, like 30,000 shards or something.
I have 30K shards right now, and like I have over 20 common wild cards, and I think I have 15 or so rare wild cards, maybe 7 to 10 epic, and I don't have any champion wild cards, but I also am missing 3 champions.
So I'm missing 1 champion. I have 1 wild card, but I'm just gonna get it from my chest I'm missing a Kalista,
Yeah.
not a Kalista, Katarina. I'm missing a
Oh, okay.
Katarina, so I'm just getting until I get to the champion wild card, and so I'm holding on to my wild card for whatever the next set is, or if they're doing sets,
Yeah.
how they're going to roll out new cards. But yeah, same thing. I have like 20 some thousand shards, and I have everything that I want. I have a bunch of wild cards, so I'm only missing a handful of things. I think I'm missing like 4 epics,
Yep.
and I have like 12 epic wild cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's impressive. I didn't expect for it to be as smooth as that was, like collecting things. I didn't think that I'd have a full collection this early.
Mm-hmm. I honestly never really felt, and I mean, granted, both of us were kind of the first few weeks we maxed out on wild cards, or at least I did.
Oh yeah,
sure, we
oh,
maxed out. We maxed out. So like people who didn't, like, we were not free to play specifically. We were we were literally as pay to win as possible, and like, you know, it never felt bad. It never felt bad on the I can't play something I want to. Like there were times where I'm like, okay, I need to grind, and I can get this. I can get if I get a wild card, or if like I get a Fiora out of this, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. But like now we're at the point where it's like, yeah, the brewers are out there now. Like there are many people with full collections and like can play anything. So now, I mean, and this can transition a little bit into the Korea Invitational. It's like just like looking over the decks, like there's stuff. Like, I mean, yes, there's some archetypes that we're seeing a lot of. You know, we're seeing, but even in those archetypes, it's like it's not
there's
like
some spicy stuff.
There's some spicy. There absolutely is. It's like, okay, well, okay, Shadow Isles. Like, well, which Shadow Isles deck are you talking about? Are you talking about the Shadow Isles Freljord one? Are you talking about the Shadow Isles Rally? The like almost mono Shadow Isles, but it plays like a Lucian, or no, does it play Lucian? No, it doesn't. It plays like 3 rallies and that's it. Are you talking about Shadow Isles Freljord Control? Are you talking about Mono Shadow Isles? You talk, like, I'm looking at it right now, and there's like a dozen Shadow Isles decks that are coming up, and they're all different. Like, okay, there's 2 Harrowing Ash decks that I can see right now. It's like,
well, there's even like the Shadow Isles Teemo aggro deck.
Yeah.
Like, so I want to bring up this point here because it's something that since the very beginning of the game, where Riot has stated they're trying their best to make sure that every card at least has some kind of playability. They want every faction to be somewhat playable, and at the beginning, I'm the biggest skeptic, right? Because you and I played Magic for so long, we know, like, oh yeah, sure, every card's gonna be playable. My ass, yeah, sure. But so some of the decks that have been just kind of rolling around on the ladder that I've seen. So let's talk about like the Prankster aggro deck that's literally everywhere now. Before a week ago, did you ever see a single Prankster actually on ladder? Like no one was playing Pranksters, and now all of a sudden that's the flavor of the week. Or like Teemo, for instance, it was the biggest meme at the start. Like everyone's like, Teemo is garbage. He's unplayable. He needs a buff. He's so bad, so I made 3 of them because why not? And now Teemo's legitimately like a strong champion
in multiple different decks.
Yeah. Like all of a sudden, and now it's funny to see we went from Teemo's this meme that's unplayable to people on Reddit saying Teemo needs nerfed. And it's like, what is happening?
I think that if as a designer, if you can get that is the best possible. Like that is what you want. It's like, you know what? I want what I want to do as a designer is I want 2 Reddit posted at the same exact time, one saying that X card needs to be banned, the other saying X card needs to be buffed. I want that because that means the mean of those 2 things is that we have a perfectly balanced card.
Well, and it's crazy. So because of that, actually before the show, I had some time before we were ready. I was just going through my collection, looking at cards that I don't see play and just kind of evaluating, is this potentially playable? And like, there's cards that before in like Hearthstone, I would just cut right away and be like, this isn't even playable. But now it's made me think, like, does this card have a home somewhere? And it's just interesting, like, because I'm a brewer, I like to make stupid crap. Like I've been messing with trying to make a bunch of Poro decks work and whatnot lately. But Kalista is my new thing. I think Kalista is actually better than people think. I think there's a sweet Kalista deck that I haven't figured out yet. But like, there's so many cards. Like, I want to break the Navori Highwayman. I feel like that card could be really strong. Stuff like that. It's like just thinking about this is a common that maybe actually could be really good. It just gets me excited. I love that.
Yeah, the only cards that I really there's a couple, and Cosign Joe, prominent Runeterrable radio community member, in the chat is saying we should do this for Border Lookout. That card is bad. Okay.
Best card. Well, the art on it is strong though. Look at that arm.
I am wondering, because man, sometimes. No, there's no way that. I mean, you think about that card compared to, oh God, what's the PNZ card that's a 10,000 times better? That's a 1/4 for 2 that nugs them for 2.
That's everywhere right now. That's in like every single deck on the ladder.
Like if I just click any PNZ card, Boom Crew rookie.
Yeah, the
like,
rookie.
Come on, bro. Like, there's no way that. I think there's like some cards. There's some cards that I almost don't count, and that
if there's like a strictly worse version.
Like there's a strictly worse. Well, I could even see like it's not even an elite. Like if it was an elite, I almost kind of like it because it's like you can get a 2-mana 2/5 relatively
it would be actually
easily.
super strong if it was an elite.
It at least could be super strong.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is, or like they can. What if it gave it barrier? I don't know. Or not. Sorry, not barrier.
Fearsome.
No.
Give everything fearsome.
What is the tough? What if they gave it tough? Like that could be interesting.
Dude, I play it in Vlad all day.
Yeah, it would be sweet. I mean, you can play it in Vlad anyway. Oh, maybe it goes in that.
I tried it. It's not good.
Okay. Well, good thing you failed so that we don't have to.
Or so like for instance, like the Bright Steel formation, the 9-mana 9/9 barrier player attack, give all allies barrier.
Yes.
In Expeditions, that card's quite strong. But I always said this card, there's no way it ever sees play in Constructed. It's so slow, it's so wonky. And now it's in the zombie Garen deck.
Yep,
like people play it.
It's also in the Fiora Shen deck, the Super JJ rank 1 EU deck. Yeah, I mean, what's funny is we're actually seeing like it's almost cyclical with the meta too, because now it's like we look at the decks from this Korea tournament, which by the way, for reference, we are getting these decks from DecksofRuneterra.com. They have all the lists posted. There might be other places, but that's where that's at least where I found them. And like we're seeing like, you know, week 1 or even like preview patch 1, it was like, okay, everyone was running like Jinx Draven aggro, mainly because Draven was better. He was a 4/3.
4/3 Draven is so stupid.
My sweet prince. But like, you know, for a while we kind of saw that deck, and then it went away for like a solid month. Like didn't see that at all. And then I think Gummy and Bagel and Casanova, that is, sort of almost revitalized the aggro scene. It was like it was all Shadow Isles and Dawn Spiders for a while. That was what aggro was. And then it's like, yeah, but what if we just play PNZ and we just go even more degenerate? Or we just play Noxus and it's like, it's not the 5/2s for 2 that Blevins, the dummy, said would be good. It's actually just 3/2s for 1 and 2-mana 1/4s that nug you for 2 every time you attack. And then also play Decimates, because we're playing the actual degenerate, like the 14 land and limited type of deck. Like you're going face. Like we're seeing that, and now we're seeing like taking that a step back, and it's like, oh, Jinx is good in that deck and also gives you reach. It's like we're back at like level 0 deck of Jinx Draven, which is like one of the first decks you can build, an easy straightforward deck with the discard. It's like it's crazy how we've like gone back, and we saw Super JJ hit rank 1 with EU in EU with Fiora Shen, which was a deck I played in preview patch 1. That we didn't see. Like we saw some Fiora stuff early, and then it went completely away, and now it's back. So it's the meta. Not only have we been seeing new decks, we've been seeing old decks get like slightly innovated on and brought back. And it's just been super, super fun.
It's been super cool to me to see how archetypes like aggro, for instance, like the things that we expected to be, oh, this will be the aggro deck.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, no, there's actually like 10 really strong, different, completely different aggro decks. So you
Yeah.
have like the prankster ones, you have like the
Elusives,
elusives, you have
elites,
spiders,
spiders,
elites. Like it's crazy.
Teemo. Yeah, there's like so many different flavors. And like even within those archetypes, if you go, okay, elusives is an archetype. Well, are you running Ionia Freljord? Are you running like mono Ionia? Are you running are you running Ionia Demacia? Like what
Yeah.
are you running?
There was a sweet Ionia Noxus deck that I saw that used like Brothers Bond and stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool.
There's still stuff that we haven't even seen yet. And it's like, okay, Ezreal is another archetype. Okay, well, is it Ezreal Freljord with Elnux? Is it Ezreal Freljord without Elnux? Are you running Heimerdinger? Are you running Ionia and PNZ? Are you running Shadow Isles and PNZ? Like, are you running Noxus and PNZ? It's like Ezreal, the like combo Ezreal archetype, if you want to define that as a deck, has like 4 different decks that it could be, which is so cool. And again, I just got to reiterate this. This is the base set of the game.
Yeah.
This is the first set that's come out. So just absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So on the topic of this, because we're talking about the does it even have a name, the Invitational? We're just calling it the Riot Korea Invitational.
LOR Korea Invitational Decks is what it says on Decks of Runeterra. I can't read Korean, so I don't know what it's actually called.
This is why you're on the show. I thought you were the one who could read Korean.
No. My cousin's from Singapore, so I know I know Singlish.
Okay, perfect. Love it. Do you want to talk about the format of this tournament? Because that was an interesting topic we in the pre-show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the format for this tournament is best of 3, or not best of 3. You need to win with 3 decks. 3-deck conquest. 3-deck. Yes, 3-deck conquest, I guess, would be the most accurate way to describe that. And if you're unfamiliar, basic and no region overlap. So to break it down into layman's terms, you have to have 3 separate decks. There can be no region overlap. So if you have a PNZ Noxus deck for your first deck, you can use neither PNZ nor Noxus in any of your other 2 decks. Yep. Pretty straightforward. And you need to bring 3 decks to the table. There's no bans in this format, so you're not choosing a deck to ban for your opponent. And you need to win with all 3 decks. So when you win with a deck, it is it gets a little check mark next to it, and you need 3 check marks to win. First person to get 3 check marks wins the match and moves on, or whatever I don't know what the bracket looked like, but you move on. So really interesting format, I think. Pretty relatively standard in terms of, well, I mean, it's a little bit different because it's like another way that Legends of Runeterra is a fusion of Hearthstone and Magic is in Hearthstone, it's very straightforward because you can't have overlap with region because a warrior deck can't have a warlock card in it.
Yeah.
And you can only run 1 class. Exactly. So, they get a little more complex with Hearthstone, but this is like, okay, they're putting that distinction in because, I mean, you theoretically could run 3 different Shadow Isles, Shadow Isles Ionia decks and have 3 different decks that function differently, but they made the distinction of no region overlap, which when I first heard it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of dumb. I don't want them to limit that. But then it made so much sense. When I realized this, it made so much sense because I thought of something that was said early on, either in one of the first posts from the designers, or maybe it was the first video. I don't remember. But the line was something akin to, we want every region to have a playable deck.
Mm-hmm.
Or a competitively viable deck, or whatever the wording was. And when I put 2 and 2 together, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. You have 3 decks, no region overlap. There's 6 regions right now. So if you want to run 3 2-region decks, every single region has a playable deck, like by default for this. And then obviously if they add more, it'll be a little bit different. But it makes so much sense to me. And really makes me think that this will, in fact, be the format we see for competitive play at a high level. And my personal guess, based on just my thought process, as well as something that we'll talk about later in the state of the beta that was released today, it might actually be what we see in some sort of competitive ladder format.
Yeah, I can see that.
In the game, outside of like invitationals and tournaments that are held. I think it might actually be that, because I mean, we talked about this on the show when we heard every region will have a competitive deck. It's like, okay,
sure,
okay, right, sure.
That sounds great in magical Christmas land,
right? It's like, man, that's a lofty goal because of a lot of different reasons. But I guess it's not that bad. And when you think about it in this format, where it's like, okay, they kind of pigeonholed themselves into almost forcing it. Now, you could run mono region decks, and there actually are a number of mono region decks. There's a mono Demacia, a few mono Shadow Isles, but not a lot, honestly. There's like maybe 5 if I'm just glancing over these top 16 decks. It basically defaulted to making that the case. So, it's not that lofty of a goal. This format does help them sort of check the box of that being the case too, which is, I mean, it doesn't take anything away from it being a goal, right? Like, it's still noble.
And it's cool. So like when you're looking at some of these, there's some interesting decks. And when you think about that deck building, I guess restriction in quotes that you have to, you can't overlap, you get things like there's this Piltover and Zon Noxus control deck in here. That's Heimerdinger, Ezreal, and some Noxus, like it's using like Culling Strike and Guillotine and Sentry. Like I would not have thought about putting Noxus with your Piltover and Zon control deck, but it makes sense seeing it. So I don't know, it's just really cool to see. It gives you that, like, as a deck builder, you have to be really creative, and I love that.
Yeah, because I mean, this is why, and again, I highly suggest checking out Gummy's channel, checking out Prismat's channel, checking out Casanova's channel, specifically for the competitive play. Obviously, check out twitch.tv/StoshMailman for all of the awesome decks. But for like specifically tournament play, like these guys are grinding out the tournaments every weekend. They are building not only high quality ladder decks, but also like making this 3-deck meta, like having that in the frame of mind, and doing test games, not even on the ladder. So really, really cool. Really cool to get something from Riot. I mean, we've talked a lot of good about it. I will give a little bit of criticism here, maybe a little feedback here. I did not have any clue that this event was going on.
Yeah, same.
Except that Casanova had tweeted out about restreaming it, and I ended up talking to him about it, and he said the only reason he knew it was on is because he was already following the Riot Korea channel, and before he went to bed, he saw that it was on, like on his Twitch following. Like, not even so, like. And for what it's worth, I imagine that this event, this Korea Invitational, probably doesn't have North America as its target audience. And I get the whole, like, blah, blah, blah. I get the whole marketing thing about how you don't want to, you want to focus in on your audience. I get that. Okay. I have a job too. Okay. I get it.
Yeah, we get it.
But also, Riot, ship it. Ship it on over. We want it. We don't, you don't need to. All I will say is I know a lot of people, many of them may be on this podcast right now, that want to get involved and help with the rebroadcast. And Casanova and Astrogation, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, are actually doing a English rebroadcast right now. So you should check that out as well. But like, that's the type of thing. Like, even just a tweet from the Legends of Runeterra Twitter, or a retweet of the Korea one.
Something at all.
A quoted retweet that says, "Hey, a quoted retweet that says, "Hey, there's a Korean invitational tournament featuring players that you may not know, but you should look out because there's a lot of really cool decks. And I think if you're paying attention to the competitive scene at all, you're going to hear a lot about these folks moving forward." I think that's that's something that would have been useful. And don't try to tell me that they did do that, because I see literally every single one of their tweets, because I get that. I have every single Legends of Rune official @Play Runeterra I see on my phone. So,
and what's even crazier is he prints them all out, every single one, and he puts them on his wall. And he's making a collage.
I get them all like snail mailed to me. The mailman's like, "What in the world are these just like printed sheets of paper? Why do you keep getting these sent? It costs $3 to send each of these." I'm just like,
yeah, he like a drug addict just scoops it up like, "I need it.
I need them." My whole wall, except for exactly the pieces of the wall that you can see in the camera right now, are all covered in
all the other
tweets.
parts of the wall.
Actually, there's not even that many tweets. So to put a bow on this, check out the Legends of Runeterra Korea Invitational. I believe it's still going on as of the time of this recording. I know, and if you don't, it's not live, check out Casanova, Twitch.tv/Casanova Hots, who did the English rebroadcast, which is cool. I mean, shout outs to Riot as well, because Casanova wasn't sure if we had the ability to do that, so I did a little finagling, did a little I know a person here, I know a person here, put these two people together, and we got to the bottom of it.
Matchmaking. It was like Tinder for
what's it called? Oh, a Yenta. I'm a Yenta for esports content creation. I'm the esports Yenta. There we go.
Oh, I love
confirmed. That. Blevins equals esports Yenta. God, I hope no one makes fan art for that. Yeah, so shout outs to Riot for having that be a possibility, because they didn't need to do that. I mean, we still could have rebroadcast and just ran the risk of getting banned, but
we don't do that.
We don't do that.
We value our Riot friends.
We do love our friends at Riot.
Speaking of loving our friends at Riot,
yes.
So we got some other cool thing that happened literally today.
Yes,
literally. So Blevins and I we were talking. We were putting our show notes together. Yes. We were chatting today, and we got this dropped on us. The state of the beta. State of the beta. Which was a super interesting article. So it's on the Play Runeterra website under news, and it's quite long and in depth.
Yeah.
And they talk about things that they think they're doing well, things that they're working on, and future plans. It was very interesting. It was written by our good friend Umbridge.
Yes.
This was really, really cool.
Yeah. So I just got an inspiration for a song.
Oh.
Have you? I'm sure many of you have heard the classic Iron Butterfly song, Inagata Davida. It's like 8,000 minutes long. What if we replaced it with "In the State of the Beta"? Oh, now.
Oh, love it.
Don't you know what these cards do? I can't sing, so I'm not going to go any further than that, but you get what I'm going going for there.
Yeah, I love that.
We just need an organ. In the state of the beta. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be saying every single time we get that. I almost kind of hope the game never gets released. I hope it's in beta forever, because I want to be saying that forever. So, Riot, that one's for you. But we did. Yeah, they did go over a lot of the stuff that they talked about, the good, the bad, the ugly. They didn't really get too much into the ugly, but or the bad, really, just kind of the good and stuff that they want to improve. But they said the good things are some champions and some interactive strategy, which I gotta give a hard agree there. Both of those feel really, really good, especially the interaction. I mean, coming from Hearthstone, it's like, yeah, they kind of purposely go the opposite of that. And coming from Magic, it's like, yes, that is part of the game. Part of the game inherently. So they talked about that interaction, good champions, and how they feel in general, and their level ups, good things. Stuff that they're improving: clarity, deck building, the round timer.
Yeah, I think that's a big one.
Yeah,
that's something that infuriates me.
Yeah, that's one I kind of wanted to talk about as well, because I kind of heard both sides of it on Twitter today, or saw both sides of it rather on Twitter, where I saw some people saying like, "Oh my god, I hate getting roped every turn, like in Hearthstone." It's like, I can't stand getting roped over and over again. Like, this guy's just trolling me and roping me, and it's like, yes, that sucks, but I actually have had the opposite problem a number of times, where I'm like thinking about a play, especially like I've played a lot of Ezreal, which I think is a pretty thought and math intensive deck, because I need to like, okay, if I freeze now, then I need to factor in like I'm not going to have this freeze 2 turns from now. I can prevent 3 damage now, but if I hold it, I can prevent 5 damage later, like that sort of thing. Or like I need to Mystic Shot this 5/5 so that I can Brittle Steel it next turn, something like that. Like those types of things, especially when you're learning the deck, like that's tough. And then also the like, okay, I mean, before they updated the animations, which by the way, love the fast animations, but before that, it's like I'm playing a bunch of spells and I'm just trying to rack them up, and it's like taking forever. Like the stupid mushrooms, like it takes 5 years for those mushrooms to go. So I've had like, I'm thinking, and then I see it get to red. I'm like, okay, let me just try to do this play. And it's like, oh, well, that stinks. I'm like, I'm not trying to rope my opponent. I'm just trying to think through and do the right play, right? So, I heard both sides of it. And I mean, I know where I feel about it. What do you think, Saucy? How do you feel about the timer in general?
So I feel passionately about the timer in general. So coming from Magic the Gathering, did you guys know that? Let me bring this up. Did you know I played Magic?
You guys are playing the Runeterrable radio drinking game.
Yeah.
You are probably alcohol poisoned if you're drinking every time we mention that we played Magic.
So I'm known for playing very slow control decks, right? So every tournament that I was actually taking seriously, I'd play something like, in Legacy, I played Miracles, which is a very slow, grindy control deck.
Sensei's Divine Top and Counterbalance.
Yep. But the thing, like a super skill intensive thing in tournament Magic play, is being able to utilize the clock. It's a resource. There's a limited amount of time for your match, because you're trying to get 80 matches in a day. That was an exaggeration, but you have to utilize the clock, because if you tie, you don't win, and you want to win. So as a slow control player, you have to learn how to play faster and play more on your opponent's turn. And I see so many times where my opponent is playing Jinx Teemo aggro, and every single turn rope me, even though they have nothing in their hand. Like, they're just doing it to be assholes because they know they've lost, and they've taken 15 extra minutes of my time on stream. And so I'll just put it on like full screen mode with my camera. Like, I guess we're just waiting for my opponent to lose because they have no cards. I'm at full life. I have War Mother's Call activated. So I guess we just hang out. And it's hard to balance in a digital game. I like, hats off to them for having to tackle this, because I don't know the best way to do it, but there has to be something, right? I just don't know what the solution is.
I mean, the best way to do it from a logical standpoint, not taking into effect player experience or player experience on mobile, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's just the chess clock, right? Like, the chess clock is always the best way to do it. When you have and then also have like a time built in to your turn, so like you can't take forever on one turn. Like, if you take, and then also like you have, I don't know, 10 minutes total for your turns or your actions. and when you run out of that, you lose the game. And then maybe like if once you get to a certain turn, like maybe maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they just want that to be the game does have a does have a an actual end to it because you can when you deck out, you lose. It's not like it just keeps going.
Yeah.
So it's that's a way to do it. Whenever like you have your chess clock like overarching time of like 10 minutes, and every time a second goes away when it's your action, you lose a second on that clock. When that runs out, you lose the game.
That's how it works in MTGO, right?
Correct.
Because you have
also,
one bucket of time.
Yeah, it also works that way in MTG Arena if you're in like tournament play or like competitive play.
Something like that could be good because like I think you should have the time to think when you need it. Every single turn is not that thought intensive. Right. And if it is, you just need to be a better player. Like not to be an asshole, but that is just a fact.
There are times that you can be thinking that aren't when it's your action specifically.
And I think that's a card game thing though, right? Like too many people don't think on their opponent's turn. Like I do the majority of my thinking, just coming as a streamer, I do the majority of thinking on my opponent's turn because when it's my turn, I'm used to interacting with you as the audience, explaining my plays.
Right.
I have to have it ready already.
Yep.
So I play fast. It's like a downside of me, but I don't know. I think if you give people too much time, they never get better. And I think having some kind of like a large bucket that you can, because there's turns that are hard, no matter what you're playing. Like you're saying, playing Ezreal, like there's some turns where if you screw up the math, you just lose the game.
Yeah.
And so you should have the extra time on those turns. But on turn one, where you have no one drops, you don't need to take 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the other thing that MTG Arena does well is like there are timeouts. Or are they called timeouts?
They're like stops.
They're like little like you have a certain amount of time that you can use on your turn. Like you start roping at the same amount of time no matter what. But then if your time runs out, it will use one of your timeouts, and you get like you get like a bank of 3, right? So if you have a really really long turn, you can use a timeout and get an extra minute or whatever for your turn, but you only bank 3, and then every so often like you regain 1. So yes, assholes could take advantage of that and keep rebanking, and maybe that doesn't. But like, I think I think the thing that sucks more is if you're really thinking heavily about an important turn and your time just runs out and you lose because of it. That is like one of the worst feelings.
It sucks. It feels bad.
It feels super bad, especially since that's probably a close game. You're putting a lot of time and effort into it and thought into it, so it means a lot to you. The inverse, which is random a-hole on the ladder is losing and just ropes you out. It's like, yes, that does suck, but I think that there's different degrees of suck that we're talking about here. And one is way worse and detrimental to someone who's it is detrimental to someone who's doing something that should be rewarded. And the other is like something bad happening to someone who's not doing something bad. And it's like both of those things are bad, but yeah. I don't know. I long story short, I'm glad that they're looking at it.
yeah, 100%. And this is a topic that needs to be brought up and needs to be discussed. And it's not one that we're the first to talk about it. I see this, all over the place. We talk about it on my stream all the time, especially when it is something where the guy with 0 cards in hand in his aggro deck is taking the entire turn. You're like, okay, what are you thinking about over there, other than how you've lost the game? Like it's just it gets annoying. So yeah, I like that they're looking into it, and I like even though there's not a fix for it, I'm glad they brought it up. Like it makes me feel better.
Yeah, and I mean it's a little bit different in Runeterra because of the back and forth, right? So it's not like like in Magic, one of my biggest pet peeves when playing in real life is like you said, when it's not your turn and the other person's just like in Narnia, like not thinking about what they should be doing.
Yeah.
I had a person that was in our group that was the worst about that. And they weren't even they weren't a great player, but they weren't a like actively bad player.
Yeah. They were just
and like
a player.
God, whenever I would play them in limited, it was the most frustrating thing. It was like when I would get paired up against them, I almost wanted to just concede because like the number of times that person drew at like FNMs was a factor of 10 larger than anyone else. And it's just like, you realize this is on you. And they're like, oh, well, I'm thinking about my plays more. It's like, your plays aren't that complicated. All right. I am playing the same format as you. And yes, I am better than you at it, but it's not that hard. And also you're not thinking about what you should be doing. Like 80% of the lines are figured out before like you start your turn, right? And then there's one additional piece of info that's added, which is what you draw. And sometimes that impacts something, but it's not a like take 3 minutes on each of your turns thing. But sorry, I had to vent about that.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about this article as well. So something else I really liked and was really important, and this is something that I've had the question of as well. So they talk about how they evaluate the card play win rate and the card win rate and the deck win rate, and how they, take into account when they're looking at quote unquote OP decks or cards or whatever. And something awesome that they did talk about is that for their data for if things should be nerfed, buffed, whatever, they look specifically at platinum and above rank matches for their competitive data. And they still look at all of the other data as for like, card play and if, what's getting played, but specifically for if something's a quote unquote like must change card or mechanic, they look platinum and above. And I think that's important to know because that's something I've had the question of like, are you factoring on in all these Iron games or is it only Masters rank games? Like where do you get this data from?
Yeah, that's really good. I feel like we saw something a couple of weeks ago that sort of made me think that that's what they were doing, or at least factoring that in. And it's like, they really handled it well. It's like, yes, what we're talking about here is platinum above. Yes, we are looking at all ranks of play, but for, hey, this thing needs to be changed right now, it's platinum above, which is like, that makes sense, right? It's probably, I'm assuming like on a bell curve, that's where it like starts to get like top 5% or whatever. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but makes sense. Like even between like plat and diamond and then diamond and master, like there's big jumps in between those. So they're looking at like the top half, which I mean, I like, really good. What I didn't, man, one of the more frustrating things, I've seen this more in Overwatch than in a lot of other games, which is Overwatch is another game that I do a podcast about. I cover the pro play specifically, so only Overwatch League. But man, in the past has the development team really taken into account casual players. Yeah. It's like, oh man, we nerfed this thing because it dominates in casual play, even though it's not even played or good in pro play. We're nerfing it in casual. We're nerfing it across the board. It's like, man, that stinks as someone, that's like, well, I guess Bastion's never getting played, or like, Torbjorn can't. It's, I like that and it makes sense because there's no mechanical part of it, or it's like, well, if you can just aim better and aim faster and shoot faster, like you can do good against this thing, like in Overwatch. But here it's just like anyone could theoretically be this good. You just need to think about it more. There's not like I personally am never going to be as good as the Overwatch League players ever. Because I'm an old fucking man. So.
Yeah. Well, that factors in the same though, right? Because like let's say that there's this like, so the game releases on mobile, right? And all of a sudden the spider aggro deck, because everyone starts with those cards, is running rampant from, iron and bronze and silver. And so now there's a whole new group of people that are going on Reddit and bitching and tweeting at Riot saying, oh, we need to nerf the what is it, the spider guy, the 2/2 that makes a 1/1 and like whatever. So they're just getting angry. Yeah, like how spider's oppressive for the game. Like they're not all of a sudden like, there's all these, we're looking at the data, this in bronze is just dominating. So now we have to nerf this card and it could like change a tournament deck all of a sudden. Yeah. So it's good to know these things because I know because coming from like in Hearthstone, like that's kind of how they did their balancing. They're like, oh, a lot of people are bitching about this, even though they're casual play, rank 25. Yeah, everyone's whining. Let's change the card.
Yeah. Oh man, sorry, Reddit told us to do it. It's like, oh god. Ugh. Ugh. They even it's funny in this state of the beta, they even made a not a shot at specifically Reddit, but a comment about social media comments, which I thought was really funny. Yeah, the other things here, they talked about economy and progression, which I think I am personally, I'm very, very happy, and not only happy, but also like impressed isn't the word, proud's not the word. I'm just happy that they brought this up at this point, because now is probably the time that they absolutely could have not talked about it, because like we talked about before, like all the fat cats like us who were maybe like, well, I just wanted to buy all my cards, like we got there. Like we're at the point we progressed through that point where we got everything. Right? So that's not actually a pressing issue for us right now. But they brought it up anyway because it is going to be a pressing issue for new players to come.
Yeah.
They could have easily, I think, not brought up economy and progression at all in this specific state of the beta, because a lot of players who have been in from the beginning have the collections now, so it's not something that's top of mind. They brought it up anyway, which I think is a really it's just a standout thing, I think. I don't know what a better way to put it, but they bring up collection agency, like the ways to measure success. Is it how long does it take to get all of the cards? Well, that's a metric, but actually it's like how long to get like one to two decks that I want to play. Okay, that's a more realistic milestone. Then experimentation is another one that Mogwai, when we had him on the show, specifically mentioned. It's like, I want to be able to play these crazy decks, but I like literally can't even spend money to be able to play them. Which does stink, and they're addressing, and then being welcoming to all players. There's going to be when mobile releases in the US and in NA and in all other regions, and not just Singapore, because you definitely can't go on Reddit and find out how to get it on your phone right now. You can only do it in Singapore. They need to be open to a lot of those players, and a lot of the players who are going to come in with nothing and need to be able to catch up in some way. So
yeah,
good that they're doing that. And then
I want to bring up the most important part of the entire article. You knew I was going to bring this up.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to preface this first, because I have to remind everyone out there that this is from Riot Umbridge, who's a friend of the show. Good dude. We sometimes do some nonsense on Twitter.
Sorry, he's was a friend of the show, by the way.
No, best friend of the show. Amazing, super smart, very talented. And here's how we know that Umbridge is a very intelligent person. So there's a section on here on personalization, and I'm gonna read the first couple lines here. It says, "Finally, personalization. We've been delighted by the response of the initial batch of Guardians and boards." And then there's a section here that says T-Hex for the win.
Didn't see it.
Huh.
It's in parentheses, therefore not canon.
The rest of it, who cares? But I'm glad that Umbridge is on my side with Team Hex. So let's just put that on the board, and the podcast can end. Thank you guys so much for listening.
We're kidding. It's not quite over yet. Though it is over until we get some. We need some Gromp gangs. If there's anyone at Riot that listens to the show and is a Gromp gang, or you know what, I'll even extend it. Give me some minion Mannix too, because I'm on Team Minion right now. Yeah, Team Minion Mannix. Okay, Cosine Joe in chat is in the Minion gang. And SSB Foot. Okay, I'm sorry, Grump. It's just me and you, buddy. You know you're number one in my heart. But in terms of polling here, I need to jump on. I need to officially endorse. Grump is dropping out of the race today. Yep. And Minion is my candidate to be the president of Guardians of Legends of Runeterra. Love it. Versus the evil T-Hex. I don't remember where I was going. Oh, yes, that complete nonsense and slander aside, they did mention here they're looking to expand a new cosmetic line such as card backs, emotes, and card styles. Let's get some foils. Let's get some foils. Let's get some foils. I really want stuff like that.
I'm in. As someone who doesn't even play Magic anymore and just spent a few $100s on foils last week for Magic, I want this so bad. I will have a full foil collection, whatever the counterpart is. I don't care.
Yeah, just Riot, shut up and take my money, please. Actually, please don't shut up. Please keep talking.
Yeah, keep talking.
Also, take my money.
Please keep in touch. Please keep in touch and keep writing about T-Hex.
Please.
If you could just slip a T-Hex into an article that he doesn't belong. So like in your when we get the new patch notes that come out next week or what? It's next week, right?
I think
so.
Yeah,
next week. If you could just throw a T-Hex in there.
No.
Throw in how beautiful and perfect and how cute he is when you rub his little mechanical belly. That's all I gotta say.
I want to start an internal Riot war of T-Hex versus minions. We need to see who is on which team. Ooh, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do that on Twitter. We're just gonna open it up. We need everyone to support this. Show your support. Are you voting for T-Hex or are you voting for the lovable, wonderful, amazing minion? That's what I want. That's what we need to know. So I'll put out a tweet. Put out a tweet probably with the episode. Actually, that's a good idea. I'll put out when this episode gets released. I'll put out the tweet and we'll have the voting go on. And will be our own little campaign here. But yeah, I mean, overall, got me really a little warm and fuzzy. I gotta say, little warm and fuzzy about the beta.
Yeah,
just like so much happened this week that I was not expecting
at all. Like literally didn't expect either any of the three things we just spent this whole episode talking about. I did not expect.
Yeah, I thought
we had other ideas for the show.
Yeah, I was like, I guess we're gonna do a bunch of listener questions, and we're just gonna talk about what decks we've been playing and hope that that's an episode. We got so much. Got so much.
So yeah, read the article because we didn't even touch on hardly anything at all in the article. It's quite long. It's like substantial.
Yeah. And it's really good. We definitely appreciate that. And next week we'll be talking hopefully about some. Actually, we'll hopefully have. Yeah, we should have patch notes by then. I think if they're going by the same cadence that they have been. Yeah, same.
The schedule.
Yeah. Anything else that we want to do before we kick this bad boy off into the abyss?
No, I think I talked about how good I am at playing Allegiance.
Yep.
I want to put in my plea for I want a hexproof Poro. That's what I want. I think if we had some kind of Poro that couldn't be targeted, all of a sudden Heart of the Fluff is bananas strong. That's what I want.
Have you met Boggles?
Yeah, I want Boggles. I want Poro Boggles to be a deck. I've been playing a lot of Heart of the Fluffed, and that card is so sick. I want to give it Elusive. I want to give it Overwhelm, and I want to give it Can't Be Targeted.
I do love that card. I did do pretty well with a Poro Expedition deck, which is pretty good. Which reminds me, I completely forgot to post my expedition from last week. So I actually have 2 in the bank now. I have 2 already recorded expeditions that I'm going to post. I'll post at least one of them this week. No, I did it on purpose. I
Heart
have
of the Fluffed 2020.
Yes, Heart of the Fluffed 2020. There's no need to vote for that. That is just a given that you're voting for Heart of the Fluffed. Obviously.
You have to.
It's one of the best cards.
It's one of the best animations, if nothing else.
True.
It's so cute.
It really is. So definitely let us know what you guys have been playing. I know a lot of you guys are posting in the the Discord, discord.me/Runeterrable Radio. That is the place to be to find us, to keep the conversation going. We've got deck discussions. We're talking about vaults. We're talking about news that's happening. All the cool people that we have on the show intermingle in there. And we got streams going on. Saucy's videos are in there. There's just all sorts of good stuff going on in that Discord, discord.me/Runeterrable Radio. It's definitely where we want to be. But Saucy, besides there, where can people find you on the internet when you're not on the show?
Yeah, I'm all over the internet, just at Saucy Mailman, YouTube and Twitch, mostly YouTube. YouTube's kind of become like my main thing. So youtube.com/Saucy Mailman, and then twitch.tv/Saucy Mailman. And on Twitter, I tweet a lot of stupid crap and then pictures of my parrot. That's pretty much my Twitter.
Hey, there are worse Twitters out there for sure.
That's true.
But yes, make sure you are following the show on Twitter at Runeterrable. Go to runeterrable.com. Go to DeckPics.Live, DeckPics.Live. Yes, we do have DeckPics.Live.
Yes, we do.
We sure do. Discord.me/Runeterrable Radio. And yeah, I mean, those are the places to be. Again, check out if you want to check out an English rebroadcast of the Korea Legends of Runeterra Invitational, twitch.tv/Casanova Hot. I'm going to at least try to convince him to make a YouTube video afterwards, but that's his thing. I'm hoping for my own personal selfish reasons that he makes a YouTube video of them, so I can watch them later. But definitely make sure you check them out. But that's gonna be it for this week.
Yeah,
man, we got bamboozled with a ton of stuff in the last 2 days, so definitely good. But for Saucy, I am Blevins, and we will see you guys next week, hopefully talking about some new patch notes for Legends of Runeterra.
That was a good show.
That was a good show.